Our nation is in trouble. I'm talking about our government and our culture. And the only one answer to what we are facing is Jesus. Jesus said in John chapter 12, verse 32, and when I am lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. We need to lift up Jesus in our nation and across the world. So we will be considering the politics and cultural issues of our day in light of God's word. So today, let's consider this.
Hi, everybody. Senate Bill 58. So S58, better known as the Pelosi Act. That's the name of the bill. It was introduced as legislation by Josh Hawley, a Republican senator out of Missouri. And get the date. It was introduced into the Senate on January 24th, 2023. Not this year, not last year, 2023. The bill was then referred to the Senate Finance Committee for revision. That's the standard process. What would happen after it got out of the Senate Finance Committee? It would go for any amendments or changes, and then it would go to the opposite house. It would go to the House, and they'd go through the same process. And at some point, everybody, both houses agree on the bill's writing, and it goes to the president's desk for either signing or not. This bill faced challenges in gaining sufficient traction to even move forward out of the committee. It wouldn't move forward in the legislative process. So you have to ask yourself why. You're going to find out more about that in this short podcast. First of all, the committee that it went to, the Finance Committee, was made up of 27 senators, 14 Democrats, 13 Republicans. The committee chair was a man by the name of Ron Wyden, a Democrat senator out of Oregon. Take notice of this. He's been in the Senate now for 29 years, since 1996. This program's not about term limits, but let me tell you, we need term limits in Congress. This guy has a net worth of over $18 million. Of the 27 members that were on this committee, 13 of them are multi-billionaires. I mean, like 20 million plus. But all of them have a net worth. Every one of them has a net worth of over $1 million. I would be willing to bet there's not very many people watching this program today, listening to me, that have a net worth of over $1 million. So there's a problem right there. One more important note to make here. 95%, write this down, 95% of all members of Congress, that's House or Senate, 95% own personal stock. So they trade stock. So you still wondering why this bill got stuck? You still wondering why it never made it out of committee? Remember, it was dubbed the Pelosi Act because Nancy and her husband Paul made a whole bunch of money in trading personal stocks, and somehow they have over $250 million. That's their net worth. I'm Keith Allen, and today let's consider this: crooks in Congress. Yes, I'm not saying every one of them, but there's a whole bunch of them. I'm going to read just a few verses out of the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, and I'm just going to read two verses, verses 3 and verses 4, and then I'm going to drop down and read verse 18. Proverbs 11, verse 3. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. Verse 4. Wealth is worthless in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. And then get verse 18 here. A wicked person earns deceptive wages, but the one who sows righteousness reaps a sure reward. Listen, Senator Josh Hawley, first-term senator. He went into the Senate in 2019, so he's a newbie. He introduced this bill shortly after getting into Congress. Number one, he heard what the public was saying. There's been a lot of noise about insider trading in Congress for as long as I can remember. And two, because he undoubtedly has seen firsthand a lot of questionable things going on in his short time in the Senate. So before I get too far along, I want to explain here in simple terms how insider trading is determined or defined in Congress. It refers to members of Congress or their staff using non-public information, that's key there, non-public information, to make personal profits in the stock market. So it's under three buckets here. And I just pulled a lot of this stuff online. Any of you can do the same thing. I just put it all together for you. Number one, access to public information. Due to their roles, members of Congress often receive classified briefings, closed-door reports, and private conversations with government officials and industry leaders. This gives them information about upcoming legislation, policy changes, and economic trends not available to you or I, the general public. Obviously, the information can and often does significantly impact the value of certain stocks. Second thing is policy influence. Members of Congress are directly involved in creating laws and regulations that can affect specific industries and companies. Knowing the direction of upcoming legislation could allow them to make informed investment decisions before these policies are enacted and their effects are known to the public. And then lastly, potential conflicts of interest. I thought this was really interesting. When lawmakers trade stocks in companies and industries that their committees oversee, imagine that, it raises concerns about whether their decisions are made in the best interests of the public or the best interests of their own. So again, is this we the people who they're serving, or is it we the government? I think in a lot of cases, you got people going into government and they're there to serve themselves. They're not there to serve the public, you and I. So remember, this is back in 2023 that this bill was introduced. But prior to that, prior to Senator Hawley introducing the Pelosi Act bill in 2023, there was actually a bill that many Americans today are not even aware of. It was passed way back in 2012 because of the same problem with insider trading. Remember, this has been going on a long time. It's always been an issue. It was called the Stock Act, S-T-O-C-K Act. And that was an acronym for Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge. The law states, and it passed, the law states that members of Congress and their staff are not exempt from insider trading prohibitions under securities laws. It requires them to publicly report stock transactions in a certain time period, 45 days. No wonder this was passed. It hasn't worked. It's never worked. And why hasn't it worked? Well, here you go. You just heard the first one. Reporting delays. Currently, they allow up to 45 days for a congressional member to report, hey, I sold some stock, or hey, I bought some stock. They've got 45 days before they have to report it at all. That reduces the transparency, and truthfully, it reduces the ability to detect wrongdoing. Think about it. Something that happened 45 days ago, even if you report it now, by the time somebody looks at it, it's 2 months after that, it's old news and nobody's going to dig into that. Everybody knows it. So it didn't work. Number two, there's enforcement challenges anyways. Few successful prosecutions. I was looking online. When I looked up enforcement for the Stock Act, it said very few successful prosecutions. Well, then when I tried to find any, I couldn't find one. I would challenge anybody listening to me. You won't find one. So I would say no enforcement. And then you say, what else? Well, loopholes, interpretations. Here's how they get away with it. It's real easy to say they didn't get their information through their official duties. They could say, well, no, I already knew that. Or, I had a feeling. There was no way to prove it. So that Stock Act, even though on the books, means absolutely nothing. But I want to give you a couple examples just so that when you hear insider trading, here's some real examples. Everybody remembers COVID-19 back in 2020. The early onset, there were pandemic trades, and that's how they were labeled, actually. In the early days of COVID, some senators made significant stock transactions after receiving private briefings on the potential impact of the economic impact of the virus. This led to several allegations of insider trading. It wasn't just several, there was a lot of allegations about insider trading at that time. But guess what? All investigations were closed without charges. Are you still asking yourself why this thing got stuck in committee? Why S-58 back in 2023? Why it never made it out of committee? Here's the other one. Investments in companies under committee review. I thought this was really interesting. Reports indicated instances where lawmakers of family members have traded stocks in companies that were under investigation by the committee that they served on. Imagine that. I'm sitting on a committee and I'm investigating a company. I know whether to buy stock or to sell stock based on this information. You, the public, you don't have that. But I do. I'm sitting on this committee. So I know I keep asking this. Ask yourself again. Are you wondering why S-58 never made it out of committee? Well, there's probably people on that committee, especially when every single one of them is a millionaire. Now remember, this is back in 2023. So, where are we at today? They say what goes around comes around. Here you go. This past Monday, April 28th, about 2 weeks ago, Josh Hawley, a senator out of Missouri, Republican, he introduced a bill called S-58, Senate Bill 58, the Pelosi Act. No, he didn't. He reintroduced the same bill. This bill would ban members of Congress from trading or holding individual stocks. President Trump has said, hey, if that comes across my desk, I'm signing it. Well, of course he would. But let me help you. It won't. It went to committee in 2023. It went nowhere for the last 2 years. Josh Hawley still beating the drum. God bless his heart. He puts it in again. And let me tell you, it'll go to committee. And my guess is not going to go anywhere again. Here's what this law would do. It bans lawmakers and their spouses from holding, purchasing, or selling individual stocks for the duration of the lawmaker's term in office. They could still invest in mutual funds, treasury bonds, etc., but no individual stock trading. Think about it. Like that just means, to put it simple, for those who owned, and I'm not going to point out any of them, but a whole bunch of them own Tesla stock, individual Tesla stock. So if a lawmaker knows, boy, we're gonna put the screws to Elon Musk. And we're going to put some laws in place that's going to hurt his company. And they go out and they sell their stock while it's still a high price before this happens. They tend to make a ton of money. Or we're going to pass a law that helps Microsoft, as an example. And then they go buy a bunch of stock, and then 2 weeks later, a law gets passed, and all of a sudden they got a windfall. That's how so many of them have got rich. It seems like such a simple thing, but it happens all the time. Remember, 95% of all members of Congress 435 members in the House, 100 members in the Senate. So you got 535 people. 95% of them own and trade personal stock. Are you still asking yourself why this bill never made it out of committee? And I will tell you again, it won't. Members who refuse to comply would be forced to forfeit any stock profits to the U.S. Treasury Department and face monetary penalties. There you go again. There's no way they're going to pass this. Do we expect this law to go anywhere? Do we expect this bill S-58 that now is just reintroduced again, do we expect it to go anywhere? Let me tell you something. Not unless more than just one good guy stands up, like Josh Hawley. Remember, 95% of them own stock and a whole bunch of them are getting rich on it. Why would they want that law? Unless there is a public outcry. Unless there's a public outcry, nothing is going to happen. And don't expect the national media to make a big deal about this, because remember, they are controlled by the lawmakers. Lots of money is at risk here. How many times have you heard me say on this program? It's all about power and money. The news right now that you're hearing today in the national media anyway is what? Tariffs, trade, immigration, deportations, global conflicts, anti-Semitism on our college campuses. So a whole bunch of stuff in the news. But here's what I would say. Ask yourself this. How important is it that 535 members of our U.S. Congress, our legislative branch of government, how important is it that they operate in a way that's ethical? Do you honestly believe that if there's a person, and there are several, that are working the system like this without ethics, do you believe that everything else they're doing is above board? Let me tell you, it is a depiction of their character in everything they do. I was in retail for many years, and I can tell you, I've been in many markets and individual stores where we had a lot of problems with internal theft. People working for us, working in the same store or market that had sticky fingers, if you will. I never ended up getting rid of or firing a person for theft, and where I was able to say, well, boy, they were always the best dressed at work. They were always at work on time. They were the best in customer service. They were great with all the employees. They did all their tasks. The only bad thing about them was they were thieves. It doesn't work like that. A person that is a crook. Remember the title of this program, Crooks in Congress. The person that's a crook in one area of their life, I promise you there's other areas in their life. They have no business in our U.S. Congress. They have no business being leaders in our country. When this bill, when S-58 was brought forth in 2023, or it's brought forth right now, let me tell you, there should have been 535 of them saying, heck yeah, you're absolutely right. We don't want that stuff in our Congress. We want everything above board. It gets stuck in the first committee it goes to. If y'all can't smell something bad there, you got bad sniffers. That's all I can tell you. It's time, I've said this all year, it's time for Christians to stand up boldly and talk about this stuff. We have a lot of issues to solve in this country. We want the right people solving those issues. Last week I was talking about there's a lot of candidates for Senate and there's candidates to go into the House. But let me tell you, we want the right candidates. We want the right people in those positions to put this nation back on track where we truly honor God in our laws and in our culture. And then certainly for me, I want the people of Texas served. we've got to make sure that we are doing our part in voting the right people into office. You want to know about your personal, the senator for your state or the House member for your state, just put their name in, Google it, put their name in, and net worth. And it'll give you a breakdown. It'll even tell you how they're making their money. And you'll see a lot of them made a lot of money on stock trading. So I was told several weeks ago to start talking policy. This is a hot one. Again, it was introduced in January of 2023. Here we are almost 2.5 years later, 2025, the exact same thing gets introduced again. It's going to be interesting to see where this thing goes. But I think we all know where it's probably going. Here's what I will tell you. Keith Allen gets elected to public office. You'll hear me talking about it. You'll hear me talking about it loud and clear. So until next week, God bless you all, and we will talk to you then.